In this video, I'm going to outline 5 different sources that you should try not to reference in a university essay. So let's get started. The first one is Wikipedia. You should not cite Wikipedia in a university essay, and yet I get a lot of students doing this all the time. The reason not to cite Wikipedia in a university essay is because anybody can go onto Wikipedia and add new information to a Wikipedia page. It's often the case that people will go in and put information on Wikipedia that's not actually true. Because there aren't any gatekeepers preventing you from going up onto any Wikipedia page and changing its content, we decide not to use them in academic essays. The second one is YouTube videos. Now, your teacher may use YouTube videos quite regularly in class. And when teachers are using them in class, they're using them as a teaching resource, but not as a scholarly source. So when it comes time to writing your essay, try to avoid using YouTube videos and instead stick to scholarly sources like textbooks and journal articles. There may be some exceptions to that. If your teacher does tell you that you can use a YouTube video, then fine, go ahead. But as a general rule, I would avoid using a YouTube video. The next one is websites. Try to avoid citing websites and blogs that are not peer reviewed. It's usually better to use a textbook from your library or a journal article than to reference a website. In fact, my website, helpfulprofessor.com, has a lot of great information on there for university students. But in every article, I do tell everyone, this is good information for you to get a general idea of the topic, but once you've read this article, make sure you read and cite journal articles. And I even give you some journal articles that you can go and read usually. It's important not to reference websites because anyone can make a website up, put it online, and start publishing. There's no one preventing them from saying untrue information online. Okay, number 4 is your teacher. Try not to reference your teacher, something your teacher said in class, or your teacher's lecture slides, or any notes that the teacher has provided you. Even though your teacher is probably a good source, and they probably have given you truthful information, it's best to source your information from textbooks and journal articles and not from your teacher's lecture slides. Whenever I see one of my students referencing my lecture slides, it gives me the impression that they've gone to class and done the bare minimum, but they haven't actually done their weekly readings or done their own research to gather further information. And number 5 is famous quotes. I often find students starting their essays and concluding their essays with a famous quote and saying, oh, it's an engaging hook, my teacher will like this quote to get started. As a general rule, famous quotes, especially ones that you find online, haven't really got any scholarly background to them. The quotes may not even be true, or they may be miscited. A quote from a famous quotes website, for example, is usually decontextualized, meaning you haven't heard what was said before the quote or after the quote, so you don't know the context or the situation in which it was really said. So the best thing to do is to avoid famous quotes, and if you're going to provide any quotes in your essay, quote things from textbooks and journal articles instead. Now, you may find that I have mentioned textbooks and journal articles quite regularly throughout this video. If you want to get more information on what a scholarly source is, including textbooks and journal articles, watch the video that I'll link in the card just above here. That video will outline sources, not only textbooks and journal articles, but other common sources that teachers often accept, such as non-government organization reports, government reports, and the assigned readings for your class. For more on this topic, I've got a link in the description below that'll take you to the full blog post, which goes over all of the sources that you should avoid citing in an essay. This video is part of a mini series on how to conduct research at university, so like and subscribe and follow this whole playlist for more helpful tips and tricks on how to conduct research and do referencing at university.